This week we'll be on board a beautiful Oyster 53 and we'll be working on a Yanmar, a 4JH3 turbocharged. And why? Well, we'll be turning this into this very cheaply and saving the owner an absolute fortune. Stay with us guys, we'll show you how. This week we're working on a Yanmar 4-cylinder 4JH3, one of a series of engines that are all 4-cylinder. Some of them are turbocharged and some aren't. Basically they're all the same block, but with a few differences in each individual engine. These engines are renowned for their rugged durability. They have great power curves, they put out a lot of torque and a fairly flat torque curve on them. The fuel consumption is pretty good as well. This engine puts out 125 metric horsepower at 3,600 RPM. This engine is fitted in its various guises in boats from 45 to 56 feet. Relatively simple to maintain, and with a workshop manual and an owner's manual you can do just about all the maintenance that you'll need to do yourself. So this is Blue Eyes, the boat we're going to be working on today, alongside one of our patrons. It's a lovely Oyster 53, a bit like yours, Phil, if you're watching. A lovely boat. When working on any boat, we always advise people you should read the operations manual, and if you've got one, the workshop manual. You'll find lots of information, like this for example. Now they spend a lot of money making these manuals, so it's always a good idea to read them, because actually the answer or answers are generally in the manual. So let's take a look. Blue smoke. Blue smoke usually comes from oil being burnt in the combustion chamber, and this can get there by a number of ways. Let's have a look at the most common ones. The most common cause is crankcase breather fault, where a valve, hose or crankcase filter is damaged, broken or missing. What happens is that the oil is sucked into the combustion chamber on the induction stroke, the wrong grade of oil, or the oil over full. Check you have the right genuine oil. Worn valve stem oil seals, they can get hard or excessively worn, and piston ring blow-by, where rings or bores are excessively worn over a long period of time. Grey or dark smoke is the most difficult to diagnose, but it's usually overfueling or a poor burn, and possibly black smoke. This can be boost pressure, excessive back pressure in the exhaust or the injection manifold, or the injection timing. Also, sometimes the turbo pressure can be wrong or it can be partially blocked, in which case you should be looking for excessive carbon or a wastegate issue. As I said, quite difficult to diagnose these ones. So what about white smoke? Well, it's normally related to a poor burn again, and that's usually something to do with air or the injectors, and the injectors is the first place you should look at. You don't necessarily need new injectors. Injectors can be calibrated to crack off at the right pressure, and the nozzle pattern has to be correct, and this can vary on different engines of the same make. Here's an example from a Yanmar manual. You see here that one engine has a 155 degree pattern and the other has a 140-degree pattern. And again, you can do this yourself, but you'd need the right equipment and the right information, of course. And finally, there's white steam. Now you can tell the difference because steam dissipates, it doesn't hang around. And normally this is caused by excessive exhaust temperature or a lack of cooling. We've looked at engine cooling before. It's one of our videos. I'll put a link in the description. So working on boat today, he's got a Yamaha 4-cylinder turbo. I think it's 120 horsepower. We've got to take the injectors out. So first thing we do is we've turned the battery terminal off so that there's no electricity flowing through the engine. Easy thing to drop a spanner and have it short out. So these are the fuel return hoses from the injectors. So this goes from injector number 1 to injector number 2, and from number 2 to number 3, and number 3 to number 4. Number 4 is capped off at the end there. You can just see it. I haven't taken that off the injector where that Jubilee clip is. Hose clamp. And then the other end, which is down there. See if we can get a torch on it. Hang on a sec. The other end is that hose there. And that's the return to the tank. Now the injectors have a little fuel going through them, which helps to lubricate them, and then it returns back to the tank. So it's basically polishing the fuel as it goes through the filters, and then of course a little bit of it goes back to the tank. So these off first, then a 17mm spanner, wrench as you Americans call them, undoes the top of the injector hose pipes, the injector feed pipes. Just gently pinch them out. When you put them back, they don't need to be really, don't wrench them up. Just pinch them. And then the next thing to do is to undo. Let's show you here. There's two. Each injector has two 10mm head bolts. So they're M6 with a 10mm head. Look, one there, one the other side. You just loosen them off so that the head of the stud is just poking through the nut, and then you turn the engine over and the injectors will just pop out. And you've got to work really clean here, which is why I've got these bits of rag here. You don't want anything going in the injectors or the hoses or anything like that. So let's turn it over and get them out. I'll have to put the camera down for a minute. So just while I've got the camera down on the floor and I'm taking out the injectors, I want to remind you that we've done a video called Suck, Squeeze, Bang, Blow, and it's all about how marine diesels work. You might find this really useful. Part 2 of that video is called Engine Cooling, and it's actually marked up as Part 2. Again, you might find this really useful. There's a link to both of these in the description, and they're also on our maintenance playlist. Right, let's show you inside. I keep banging my head on those that stick down there. Beware of moving parts. We can see that's the injector hole. The stud's left. That's the other one. That's the other one there. We've cleaned all this with spray before we started, so it's all nice and clean, but I'm going to lay a rag across the top of there so that nothing can fall in. I'll show you the injectors in a minute. So here you can see a close-up still of 2 of the injectors, and these were possibly the worst. You can see that the burn hasn't been clean and there's a lot of carbon on the tips. I think that this isn't over-fueling. What this is that the injectors are not spraying the nozzle pattern correctly or not cracking off at the right pressure. If it cracks off too early, you'll get a bad burn. Anyway, back to the video. So there we are, that's the injectors out. Put them down on my best white terry towel. There's definitely been some unclean burning. You can see there, these are sooting up, so there's definitely, it looks to me like overburn, overfueling, sorry. And I think we had some diesel in the exhaust and a bit of white smoke, so I think the spray pattern on these is wrong. Now there is a specific angle pattern that this should come out at. I haven't got testing gear here, but apparently there's a very reliable man just up the road. He's reasonably priced, so they're all out, fairly easy to get out. One was a bit stubborn, and even on a 53-foot boat we're rocking and rolling. But yeah, so all the holes are all plugged with a clean lint-free rag. We're going to send these away to be done, and I think that will cure the issue. So they are very sooty, especially this one here. Look, you see it, get the light on it. Very sooty. There. You can get the light. If I get the light right, you can see it. I wish I had a pump with me to check the pattern, but I don't think they've been set up right. Okay, let's get them bagged up, nice clean IKEA bags, and get them off to the man. Normally in the workshop you'd have little plugs to put over the ends of these. We haven't got them, so a bit of masking tape, stop any dirt getting in, and then we'll put them in the IKEA bags, in separate bags so that they don't knock together and get little metal chips in them. Right. Oh, there we go, all bagged up, ready to go. We'll put them in another carrier bag there and go and see the man. He should be back in a few days.
3 days later.
Nice, clean injectors. Look at the ends now. And 2 of these have been re-tipped. It's that one there. And that one there. All ready to go back in the engine. Don't say anything to Cindy, that's a bath towel. Right, we're back in the engine bay. The injectors have come back, as you've seen, and they've come back in a really well done. It looks like they've looks like he's replaced 2 of the nozzles. So we're on this engine and we're going to put these back nice and carefully. Well, we wrapped it all up when we left it, so let's take the rag out and get these injectors back in. Actually, I think what I'll do before I put that one firmly in is I'll put that end cap on there, and I've bashed my head again. On there, we'll put the blanking plug on that before I put it in. Some of the fuel which isn't actually burnt in the combustion chamber cools the injector and also lubricates it, so that's why we have a fuel return. We can just drop that on there like so, and you'll note that I'm not putting the nuts. Can you see that? Yeah, I'm not putting the nuts back on these at the moment, and the reason for that is if I was to drop one of those nuts in here and it went down into the combustion chamber, we would have a whole world of poo. So I'm not going to take the caps off or the put the nuts on at the moment, or the pipes, because we don't want to do any contamination or drop the nuts down there. Potentially this engine would have had to have come out of the boat, and the bores would have had to have been honed, possibly new rings, if, as the engineer had said, the bores were actually glazed. As it happens they weren't, and the diagnosis that we gave was based on what we actually saw in front of our own eyes. Thankfully, the owner saved himself a small fortune. Just remember, not everybody who's there to diagnose things for you is always there to necessarily help you out. Quite often they're there to line their own pockets. Anyway, on with the video. And then the final one, I think you can see that. You can hear lots of creaking and groaning. The marine's got swell in it again today. Really bad. There we go. So that's all the injectors in now. We haven't taken the caps off. We haven't put the pipes on yet. So the next thing to do will be to put those nuts on and get them tightened up, and then we'll put the injector pipes back on. Now we have all of the injectors back in and the fuel pipes, feed pipes connected but not done up, so we can bleed the engine. And these don't take a lot of bleeding, to be honest. And now all I have to do is put the fuel return hoses on, which is always a tricky job. That one goes on there, and then they're all S-shaped down there. So let's get them on. Well, there we go. I don't know how clearly you can see that, but all of the return pipes are on and done up. We just need to bleed a little bit of diesel out to the injectors, and then we can fire her up, see how she runs. I need to get around the other side for that, which is really easy. So there we are. Didn't take much bleeding at all. Right, let's have a look. Sure, I can. She warms up. So she's just coming up to temperature. We're running at about 1500 RPM. See that? In gear. So the temperature gets up to middle of the dial there, maybe a little bit, maybe a bit lower. Oil pressure's good, no leakage on the on the injectors. Let's have a look outside. Well, there you go, look, 1500 RPM in gear, no smoke. Now we had a little bit of smoke up on the start up, that's to be expected, but now even revving there's nothing. That's really good. Yeah, very pleased with that, and I'm sure the owner will be. I mean, all diesels smoke a little bit, they always do, but this one was fairly bad, and we put some injector cleaner in and it made it better. But yeah, so I'll do a WhatsApp now and just let him know and be a happy bunny. Just for your information, this is one of our Patreon's boats, and it's a lovely Oyster 53, absolutely beautiful. He started doing the teak before he left. He's asked us to do a few bits and pieces, and we're keeping our eye on it. This is the first day that we've had reasonable winds and very low swell. For some reason the swell wraps around the end there and gets in when the weather's from the direction it's in. Cindy's down there. We're just going to WhatsApp the owner. I won't name him. Unless he wants to be named, of course. I'll ask him in a bit. But it's a beautiful, beautiful boat, and it's got a lot of custom bits and bobs on it. But yeah, look at that, 1500 RPM, no smoke, wonderful. Right, I'm going to get in touch. Before we finish up this video, I just wanted to say that the owner of this boat was told that the engine needed a substantial amount of work on it, and the reason for the smoke was glazed bores where the engine had been left at tick over for long periods. Well, it wasn't. We've come across this quite a lot. Potentially this engine would have had to have come out of the boat, and the bores would have had to have been honed, possibly new rings, if, as the engineer had said, the bores were actually glazed. As it happens, they weren't, and the diagnosis that we gave was based on what we actually saw in front of our own eyes. Thankfully, the owner has saved himself a small fortune. Just remember, not everybody who's there to diagnose things for you is always there to necessarily help you out. Quite often they're there to line their own pockets. Anyway, on with the video. Custom bits and bobs on it. Quite a bit of bird shit as well. Ow, ow, ow. What a tit. So if you see red smoke, it probably means your boat's on fire. Now listen very carefully. If you see green smoke, follow the yellow brick road.